Just awful, awful news for the Miami Dolphins following the win on Sunday against the Washington Commanders. Ian Rappaport broke it on Monday morning. Juju Brents, the corner who has really started to gain some traction in Miami, left the game on Sunday against the Commanders in the fourth quarter with a foot injury, and it is reported that is going to be season-ending for Juju Brents. Now, he will be back with Miami in 2026. We'll explain more about that here in a second, and he will be 100% according to Ian Rappaport, but we will not see the standout former second-round pick for the rest of the season. And, man, this really does suck because if you don't know the story on Brents, I'll do a quick refresher here. Second-round pick out of Kansas State in 2023 by the Indianapolis Colts. Had a really good rookie season, but then battled injuries in year two and really wasn't on the inside track to have a starting role for the Colts this season in his third year in the NFL. So Indianapolis ultimately waived him. Miami claimed him following roster cutdown day. He has been a healthy and active for most of the year, but then Rasul Douglas gets hurt. Juju Brents steps in against the Bills and was phenomenal and looked really good on Sunday against the Commanders as well. This was a corner who just is still 26 years old who has a chance to really niche himself in to a starting role for the Dolphins in the future. But we're not going to be able to evaluate him for the rest of the season, and it's a major bummer. But I want to show some positivity towards Juju Brents, and he's going to be down on his luck. He's out for the year. I want him to know the Dolphins fans love him and hope him a speedy recovery. So just in case he sees this video, make sure he knows that we want him to get fully back to 100%. Hit that thumbs up icon and show that positivity. But as we talk more about Brents here, it really does stink because he's got all of the makings of a potential CB1 or CB2 in the NFL. He's 6'2", he's 210, he's physical, he's got great size to him, he can defend big-bodied X-wide receivers. He could defend tight ends over the middle of the football field. And he was really starting to find his stride as a member of the Miami Dolphins the past couple weeks, filling in for Rasul Douglas as a starting boundary corner. I mean, you look at what he did against Buffalo and Washington, and before he left the game against the Commanders, he did play about the same amount of snaps as he did against the Bills in Week 10. Only allowed one catch against the Commanders on one target, but that game against Buffalo really shows the outlook for him moving forward, where he defended Keon Coleman at an extremely high rate. He defended Dalton Kincaid, was targeted 5 times, only allowed 2 completions. I mean, he was fantastic. And, I mean, listen, I'm not going to act here like he was going to be some legit, unbelievable guy, but he's certainly a guy that could be a starter in the league. And it's really just a bummer that he's not going to be able to be evaluated because there was a chance that you look at him here, and if he continued to play at the level he did against the Commanders and Bills for the rest of the season, you would have gone into the offseason with the belief, okay, maybe this is someone that can be a starting corner for us on the boundary in 2026. Well, now you're not going to have a chance to evaluate that anymore. So the remaining healthy corners on this roster is Jack Jones, Ethan Bonner, Jason Marshall Jr., and Rasul Douglas, who is likely going to be able to return to that starting defense when the bye is up. He obviously missed the past couple of weeks, and then he has a week and a half until the next game. So, yeah, you expect Rasul Douglas to be back on the field for Miami against the Saints in Week 13. But this is also a big opportunity for Jason Marshall Jr., the 5th-round pick out of Florida, who started the first couple of games in the nickel, got hurt, put on IR with a hamstring injury after he got injured in that Thursday night game against the Bills, and then really never got back into the starting lineup when he was activated off of IR around Week 8 or Week 9. But now he is likely going to become the CB3 on this team because your starting 2 is going to be Douglas and Jack Jones, and then Marshall Jr. is probably that CB3 over Ethan Bonner because Bonner has really struggled on the field. And I'll tell you what, Jason Marshall Jr. took advantage of the limited opportunity he had on Sunday against the Commanders because when Juju Brents went down, the corner Miami turned to was Jason Marshall Jr. He ended up playing 19 snaps on Sunday, and he was really good. Was targeted just once, no good. Had a PBU and a QB rating of targeted and went 39.6. Like, he almost ended the game in regulation. We talked about the Jack Jones interception in overtime, but if you are remembering the final minute of regulation. Miami obviously gets stopped at the 1-yard line. Washington moving down the field, attempting to get in game-winning field goal range, which they did, and we're lucky Matt Gay missed the 56-yard field goal with 5 seconds left. But the couple plays before that, the Dolphins brought a blitz. Mariota threw an 18-yard pass to the sideline. Jason Marshall Jr. in man coverage was lockstep with the wide receiver. And when he turned, the ball was coming, and it hit him right in the face, and he wasn't really able to get 2 hands up because he had one hand kind of battling with the wide receiver. But it was an excellent coverage rep by Marshall Jr. And just maybe, he gets more opportunities as the season progresses here since the Juju Brents is done for the year. And maybe you get more of an evaluation on Jason Marshall Jr.'s ability to be a corner on this roster for the foreseeable future. More coming here in the cornerback room, but this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The season continues to roll on. The weather is changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Which players are going off, which ones are overhyped. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on PrizePicks. I have an entry for the Monday night game. If you're watching this before that game kicks off between Las Vegas and Dallas, this is my entry. I think CeeDee Lamb gets in the end zone, and I think Ashton Jeanty does as well. I'll go more than on those 2 players. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. I alluded to it just a little bit ago, but with Juju Brents going down, you really were thin at corner on Sunday against the Commanders. But help is on the way. I mentioned it. Rasul Douglas missed the game against the Bills, missed the game against the Commanders with that foot injury. He was questionable for the game against Washington and ultimately was kept out, probably to just make sure he gets back to 100%. Miami knew they had a bye week the week after, so it's like, all right, we'll hold out Rasul Douglas. Then he'll have a full month from when he got hurt to the next game against the Saints, and he'll be 1,000% healthy when he's able to return to the football field. And now that becomes even more important for Miami with Juju Brents being hurt. Rasul Douglas has been one of the top 15 graded corners in the NFL this season by Pro Football Focus, so it's going to be really nice to see the veteran back on the football field against 2 inferior opponents in the New Orleans Saints and New York Jets coming out of the bye week. But you also have to show some major flowers to Jack Jones because he has really been stepping up over the past 3 weeks or so. This was a guy who was signed the first week of training camp in July. Miami had the Kader Kohu injury. They had what was the other corner got hurt? Oh, I'm absolutely spacing on the corner that got banged up in the first week. Cornell Armstrong. I mean, you had Kohu. There was another guy that got hurt in training camp that was out for the year. That was a bummer. Obviously, Storm Duck has been hurt. And Jack Jones has just been here consistently week in, week out, improving every single week in this Anthony Weaver defense. I mean, I tweeted this out on Monday afternoon, another reason why you follow me on Twitter at Nick_Roloff. But against the Commanders, Jack Jones was targeted 3 times and only allowed 1 catch. And it was for -3 yards on a screenplay. He came up and made the tackle. When he was targeted, he had a 2.8 QB rating. Obviously had that game-changing interception on the first play of overtime where he undercut Zach Ertz, made the catch, had a solid return, and Miami is ultimately set up for a game-winning field goal in overtime. I mean, Jack Jones continues to rise his stock in Miami, a part of a defense that is improving week in, week out as well. I mean, you look at Jack Jones' numbers for the season, he's actually only allowing a completion percentage when targeted of 56.7%. He's getting targeted about 30 times this year. He's allowed 17 catches. And he hasn't been getting beat deep either. That's one of his biggest knocks was he's a ball hawk. He takes a lot of gambles, and he could get beat on the double move often. But really has not allowed any big plays that often, only 9.4 yards per catch. He has allowed 3 touchdowns, but he now has 1 interception, 1 PBU, and a 90.8 QB rating when targeted. Like, I've been impressed with Jack Jones, and I actually think this is something he's really worked on to improve as well, is his tackling in the run game. His 2 biggest knocks let's say his 3 biggest knocks. That's what we're going to talk about here. The issues with Jack Jones was that he didn't tackle, he is susceptible to double move, and he gambles too much, and he has been a distraction off the field and in the locker room. That's been the issue with Jack Jones across his time in the league with the New England Patriots and the Las Vegas Raiders. But in Miami, there has been no distraction off the field. He has made plays tackling in the run game. And I laid it out just a second ago. He has not been beat a ton deep down the field on double moves. Sure, he's been flagged a little bit for being too aggressive and too handsy, but that's the way he plays. He's a physical, aggressive cornerback. And the way that he has played, it makes you want to bring him back. He's only playing on a one-year deal for Miami this season. Like, there has to be a conversation on if you should bring back Jack Jones this offseason or not, because that is how well he has played in this Anthony Weaver defense. So I'll ask you before I give you my thoughts. Should the Dolphins re-sign Jack Jones in the offseason? Type Y for yes, type N for no, pin comment on today's episode, so I want to hear your thoughts. I absolutely would bring Jack Jones because he has proven that he's willing to be a more mature corner in the locker room and off the field, and he's also proven that he can play at an average level at bare minimum in this Anthony Weaver defensive scheme. But I also am not going to be overreactionary to this pretty solid season he's putting together and give him a multi-year contract where he's getting paid probably more than he should. But I would bring him back because Miami doesn't have a ton under contract at the cornerback position for next season. There are only 3 corners that are currently on the roster that will be here next year unless they get cut. Storm Duck, who's 26, obviously out for the year, the former UDFA, 1 year left on his deal. Jason Marshall Jr. entering his second season as a 5th-round pick in 2025. And then Juju Brents is under contract. And that's actually something that I want to make a video about in the next week or so be on the lookout for that. But because the Dolphins claimed Brents, they basically took on his rookie contract. And because he was a former second-round pick, he is under contract next season for Miami at $1.8 million. And that could provide massive dividends for the Dolphins. But you think of what Miami has, and although I like Brents, Marshall Jr. could really improve his stock in Miami over the next couple months. But Miami will likely look to make a lot of additions to this cornerback room in the offseason. In free agency, I bet they'll sign multiple corners, whether it is a veteran to start or a couple of like 1-year deals like Jack Jones maybe, or other guys to just provide a lot of depth and create an overall room. But I also expect Miami to address the cornerback position in the NFL draft in the first couple of days. Remember, Miami has 5 current picks slated in the first 3 rounds of the draft. 1 first-round pick, 1 second-round pick, and 3 third-round selections. So if you're looking for potential additions this offseason in the cornerback room, in free agency, I would keep your eye on Jamel Dean. He'll probably be one of the more expensive names alongside Greg Newsome, the former first-round pick, who is just 25 years old. I would also expect Reek Rulin to be expensive. I would expect Jalen Watson to be expensive, so keep your eye on him. But I would also think Miami would maybe bring back Kader Kohou. Now, it's going to be a different regime and different GM who didn't bring in Kohou, but maybe Mike McDaniel pounds his fist on the table to re-sign him to a 1-year deal. He's coming off knee surgery, ACL injury. Maybe you bring him back to be your nickel corner. But if you're looking to draft a corner in the first round, and if you're picking anywhere between 10 and 15, which is kind of where Miami is right now, you can maybe go at Mansour Delane from LSU, Jamad McCoy from Tennessee, or Avion Terrell from Clemson. I like Chris Johnson from San Diego State, but he's likely going to be an end-of-the-first-round guy or second-round pick type of player, where maybe Miami gets him there, but maybe they go corner with one of those other top guys in the first round. Point is, I expect Miami to be active in the cornerback market this offseason. There's no doubt biggest needs for Miami is to add more to this defensive line and edge rushers specifically, but also add to the secondary. I mean, if you rank the biggest needs for Miami going into the offseason, I think figuring out offensive line long-term is probably number 1 with right tackle and potentially left guard. I think edge is probably number 2 because you really only have Chop Robinson moving forward. And then cornerback would be number 3. And then you start to get the then you get to quarterback, then you get to safeties, and you go on from there. But I expect a lot of cornerback additions this upcoming offseason. And we'll be here every step of the way the rest of the season as well as in the offseason. So subscribe to Dolphins Today for live shows and daily Dolphins content.